Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of History and a Drink. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Frank. And tonight we're going to be looking at our drink of the night is the Blue Hawaiian here at
The Baihai Hut. So our host for the evening and for this season. And one of the things that we're doing is we're taking a look at some of their cocktails, specifically their tiki cocktails, but giving our little twist on some history lessons about those. So once again, the drink for the night is the Blue Hawaiian. So there, cheers. Delicious.
The song Blue Hawaii actually is the impetus for all of this. And it comes, it was made in the 1930s for a movie with Bing Crosby called Waikiki Wedding.
Okay.
So last week we were talking about how these movies were escape movies and stuff like that. And these were the ones from the 1930s.
Yeah.
And then in
Bing Crosby in the 30s, that was big. he was setting the tone, and he was the pyramid of star status.
Exactly. So. And then we see that Henry Yee, who was a bartender in Hawaii, really loved Bing Crosby and loved that song, and he is the one who created this drink called the Blue Hawaiian,
which then has worked its way into tiki lore and tiki culture. And so that's where we saw it as the tikis. And here at the Baihai Hut, why they have their version of the Blue Hawaiian.
Yep. And so our take on it is going to be based on the movie Blue Hawaii starring Elvis Presley that came out in 1961. And it was the #1 film in 1961.
Now, he also, too, so the original song Blue Hawaii was by Bing Crosby, but obviously Elvis remade that, and then they built a movie around it.
Right. And Elvis, one of the interesting things about him is he didn't write any of his music.
So nothing. So he's at least for me, I know him as this singer, this consummate singer. But
yeah, let me give you just a few numbers here. So he's going to make 31 movies in his lifetime.
Okay.
All right. All in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
Then he's going to record 33 albums. He's going to record 18 soundtracks for 31 movies.
Yeah.
He's going to do 8 live albums, 1 spoken word album, and then there are over 200 compilation albums made with his songs, and he records over 780 songs in his musical career.
Well, the amazing thing that I take from that is not only is he just the singer on this, but obviously he's also an actor and every way, shape, or form in bringing it on to the soundtrack and the like. So, but all of that done in a 20-year period.
Yeah. And when I was first learning about Elvis, I always thought he was a musician for a long time, and then the movies came later. But he kind of comes into stardom in 1956, and where he starts becoming kind of a household name. He's on television, on the Steve Allen show. His biggest one is going to be with Ed Sullivan. Yeah. But we see that his first movie, Love Me Tender, comes out in 1956.
So he's actually, right from the get-go, is becoming an actor and working his way on to, besides just the musician.
Yeah, so he really, truly is that performer.
Yeah.
And can do it all. Then we're going to see that.
Well, how did he get started? What brought him in?
To the movies? Or
to anything. I mean, obviously he had a manager.
Yeah, he loved to sing, and this guy, Colonel Tom Parker, is going to be the one who finds him. Now, everything that I've read about him, he was kind of a shady character. I read that he came here illegally.
From Dutch. He was Dutch.
Yep. Comes here illegally. He's going to travel around, and it talks about him getting married in Tampa and having a carny wedding.
Well, he was traveling around, but he has ties to the circus. So this is in the 40s and 50s, basically, and specifically the 50s. And so once again, ties to Florida and that, because we would winter here in Sarasota.
The Ringling Brothers.
And the Ringling Brothers, yeah.
Yeah. So
in fact, he was married in Tampa.
Yeah. So we think he probably was with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus and traveling around and stuff like that. He's going to come across Elvis as he's performing at different places in and around like Memphis and everywhere like that. And he's going to see that he's got an opportunity here, and he's going to then work with Sam Phillips of Sun Records and they're going to sign Elvis to that first contract. Now, Sam Phillips is another interesting character. I saw a documentary where he was talking about signing Elvis, and that he doesn't think that God could have came down and done anything better than what he did by taking Elvis Presley and that type of music that he was singing and meld them together to give the people what they wanted.
So pretty full of himself and producing things. All right.
So we're going to see that he's going to start off on his records, and his records are just going to go gangbuster.
Right from the get-go.
So,
So this is what year again? This is...
Well, he's like 54, 55, and then 56 is when it really all starts moving along.
Okay.
Now, he's rising. He's done one movie in 1956. He does two movies in 1957. He's starting on a movie in 1958, and boom, he gets drafted into the Army.
Now, drafted in the Army, from a history standpoint, we're not in war at this time, so...
No. We're in the Cold War.
Yep.
So the Korean War was over. We're seeing that Germany is kind of getting unified at this time with the three Western areas that'll become West Germany. Our greatest enemy is the Soviet Union and the Soviet Eastern Bloc countries. And so we still have a huge army contingent over in Germany.
Okay.
It's still technically an occupied state.
Sure.
So we are going to see that we need to have troops constantly moving through there, so they're still drafting people at this time.
So Elvis gets drafted.
He gets drafted.
So it's a 2-year stint, right?
Yep. And he does his training at Fort Hood in Texas.
Yep.
And it was interesting. The Army kind of wanted him to be in the special services.
Because at this time, he's already a household name. He's in movies. He's an actor. Everybody knows who Elvis is.
Yeah. And so they want him to be in special services. And special services, if you remember watching Forrest Gump, Forrest is going and doing his ping pong stuff. That's the special services where they go and they do special events. They entertain the troops.
I think of Captain America selling bonds.
Yeah.
So
and that is going to be what they kind of want him to do. But Parker talks Elvis into just being an average soldier. And he says, this will be a huge jumping off point, and it will springboard us way more than if you're going around and singing.
Because Parker sees him as a cash cow. He sees him as a commodity to sell.
Yeah, it is going to milk him for all he's worth.
Okay.
So he gets assigned to the 3rd Armored Division, which is located near Freiburg, Germany. And while he's there, he's going to actually be really kind of he's charitable. He gives his pay to local charities. He is going to buy televisions and other electronics for the entire base. So he's
everybody's buddy.
Exactly. Yeah. He buys this whole unit, extra fatigues and stuff like that. It just has kind of that camaraderie with them.
Okay.
Now, while he's there, though, there's a couple things that he gets introduced to. The first one, and I think the one that is most detrimental to him, is going to be amphetamines. So while they're out on maneuvers, a sergeant in his unit supplies him with some amphetamines, and he just thinks they're the next best thing because it gave him so much energy to do stuff. And as we talk a little bit later on, with the amount that he's producing in the 1960s, it kind of makes sense that he needed amphetamines to be able to do everything that he was doing.
It allowed him to be the worker that he wanted to be.
Yeah. And then he meets this 14-year-old young lady named Priscilla, and she has just moved there as well. Her stepfather is in the Air Force, and she's going to...
She's 14. Now he's 24 at this time.
Yeah. So they're going to start a 7-year courtship.
Okay.
Right? I don't know what that means back then, but 7 years, and they'll get married when she's 21 and he's 31.
Yeah. And hence Priscilla Presley.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I want to jump and talk about that movie Blue Hawaiian that he's in, going along with this drink. This movie was his biggest movie, I think. When you look at it, the album from it is #1 on the charts for almost 40 weeks.
Now, what year is it? So this is
1961. So this is a full year out of the military. Now, they milk it for what it's worth when he gets out. So in 1960, his first movie out of the military is called GI Blues. All right, and then
so totally taking advantage of his status coming back and that.
Yep, in the opening scene in Blue Hawaii, he's a soldier coming back from the war, and he's getting off the plane in Honolulu, wearing his uniform, all that kind of stuff. So I think it was probably his real uniform with all his real stuff on it. So that movie is set in Hawaii, and it just shows you the landscape of Hawaii, and it's really a beautiful that they show all of these different places. They take you to Kauai, they show some of the surfing and everything. But when you look at the rest of his movies, this one, the album for this was triple platinum,
right?
More than any other.
And that was the pinnacle of all of his career, basically.
Yeah,
over those 20 years.
Yeah. And so this movie, I think, is kind of sets that standard. Now, as we were looking at the movies and looking at the soundtracks, the sad part of it is they kind of all were kind of formulaic, and they were all the same kind of thing. Just change the place a little bit, put a new girl in. There's still where he's going to get in a little bit of trouble. The soundtracks had the same kind of thing. I found that it had to have 3 ballads. It had to have 1 medium tempo song, 1 up tempo song, and then 1 break the rules boogie. What that is, I have no clue. But
they found a formula and created it and built it on too.
And I think that's might be part of the problem is Parker saw that this made money, and they just stuck with it, and did it for as long as they could.
As possibly could. Well, I mean, the amazing though is that it at the time it just drew so much attention and so much piece in. I know that he not only influenced being that actor, being that and having that iconic just look to him and that character, he influenced so many other people at this time. There's a great Florida story. So he actually shot a movie. It was in 1961. They were shooting it. Came out in 1962. It's called Follow That Dream.
Yep.
So now in that movie, it was shot in Ocala here in Florida. The funny story to this, here's a little history tidbit to that. So this is 1961. He's shooting the movie. So there's an electrician that works on set on the movie. So that electrician ended up having a nephew who lived in nearby Gainesville, which is just a little shot away. And during that summer that he was working, he had this 10-year-old boy come with him on the movie set to come take a look and see what was going on. Now, Elvis is famous at this time and doing his thing. So this young little boy who just was enamored with baseball, that was, at the time, that's what he wanted to do. He was going to be a baseball player in that. Well, he gets on this movie set. He gets introduced to this star, Elvis, who kind of shows him the guitar. And this boy decides, he turns to his uncle and says, you know what? I'm going to be a rock and roll star. That is what I want to do. This young 10-year-old boy goes home, buys a guitar, starts learning guitar, goes through high school and college, and eventually his name was Tom Petty. So Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, actually Tom Petty was taught his first couple of chords by Elvis and when he was 10 years old. So pretty funny the influence that he's had across.
Yeah, but I think that kind of goes to the essence of who Elvis was.
Yeah.
He grew up poor. He wanted to help everybody he could. And the little kids that would come around, he didn't shoo them away.
Not at all.
He embraced them and had fun with it. So now he got to work with a ton of amazing actresses too. So some of them were Barbara Stanwyck, Anne Margaret was probably the most famous in Diva Las Vegas. He starred with Barbara Eden of I Dream of Jeannie, Mary Tyler Moore. Mm-hmm. One of them that I thought was really interesting was Carolyn Jones. You know what she's more famous for playing?
No.
Morticia Addams in the original Addams Family show.
All right.
So, and her look is that dark look and stuff like that. So I want to go and find that movie that she's in. But Nancy Sinatra.
Yep.
Ursula.
Boots are made for walking.
Yep. Ursula Andress of James Bond fame.
Yep.
And then there were tons and tons of other young women who were in the movies because he would have his love interests there, but there would always be multiple love interests that were in the movie as well, and vying for his attention and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So he really had, I think, an amazing time making the movies. It just, as they went on, I think they got bored with doing the same thing over and over again.
And I would think he probably got bored as well. I mean, he's acting, he's doing things in center stuff, but it's not songs that he's written. It's not, he's really just a performer.
Yeah. And, you know, as we grow and get older, we want to evolve and we want to change. And here he's getting locked into trying to be that 21 to 25-year-old heartthrob. Yeah. So now that heartthrob thing just makes me laugh because that's our grandparents.
Yeah.
All right. So think of your grandmother screaming for Elvis. So I joke with my students that I show them a video about Elvis, and I say, if you look closely, you may be able to see your great grandmother there screaming for Elvis. So Elvis in the military is going to just spend the 2 years there. And that is going to, I think, connect him with another group of people. So he sees how the average person and soldier is living. And that allows him to say, I really want to give back. And he goes and he keeps performing in concerts and all of that. And ultimately, he's going to go on and stop doing the movies. His last movie is in 1969. And he's going to go on and kind of move to that next step. And that next step is going to be in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, exactly.
And he's going to then create his performances where those people can come to Las Vegas and see him on a regular basis.
Now, at this point in time, too, he had this incredible 20-year stretch in the 50s and 60s to where he just absolutely just killed himself over those 20 years with the amount of stuff that he produced and did. I mean, he was just the consummate worker. So it's almost a little bit of kind of a cooling down period. Unfortunately, he also had the drug addiction and everything going with it as well.
Yeah.
So.
And the sad part is he didn't own that. He said because they were prescription drugs and he was getting them from a doctor that it was okay. It was like taking aspirin and stuff like that. But we see that the amphetamines over time was just killing him. Now, when he gets to Vegas, he's going to then become that famous, iconic Elvis in the leisure suit.
And the comeback show.
Yeah. And that always reminds me of one of my favorite movies that is kind of a tribute to Elvis, which is called Honeymoon in Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's got Nicolas Cage and Sarah Jessica Parker in it. And the part where they're jumping out of the plane
with
and
all
the flying
Elvises.
Yeah. So, and just think of how much he influences to have that culture still around today, where people still do impressions and imitations.
He was the king of rock and roll.
Yeah. So Elvis was just an amazing character when we look at his performance, his stamina for doing it. I just am sad that we don't see that he gets to really kind of enjoy those later years in life and kind of go back to his roots. I think if he would have been able to go back and do more of the gospel music that he learned to sing with and be able to kind of pick and choose and not be on the stage all the time, he really could have enjoyed that and could have influenced so many more individuals.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's our little bit about Elvis tonight. Yeah. So there's tons more. There's lots of biographies out there that you can go and read. There's tons of documentaries that you can go and watch about him. Watch the movies.
Yeah.
All right. They are a little dated. So when I was watching Blue Hawaii, now the drink in Blue Hawaii that they are pushing is the Mai Tai.
It's the Mai Tai.
They are drinking it like by the gallon. But there are some weird dynamics in the movie with, I guess, how to portray people during that period of time, with how they interacted with the different sectors.
It's almost a Mad Men culture, kind of.
The thing that I found most like cringy, I guess is the best word for it, is they're in a luau, and this drunk couple comes in who have been married like 25 years, and they sit down at the table next to him. Well, the drunk guy comes over, and Elvis is there as a tour guide with all these young girls that are supposed to be 16, 17. Yeah. And the guy just comes up, puts his arms around her, starts hugging on her, kissing her and stuff like that. And he gets in a fight defending her because the guy's being a jerk. Yeah. and he goes to jail.
But a little bit of a different culture at the time for what we have today.
So it would be really interesting to have my students watch that.
Yes.
And see that. Because it's just interesting seeing that difference in time frames with it. And you can go, like, one of his movies is called Kissing Cousins.
Yeah.
All right. So, it takes place, I think, in the mountains of Appalachia, which that still is kind of the case today, but
Jerry Lee Lewis, is that what you said?
yeah, exactly. So next week, we are going to be doing the Baihai Regatta Rum Punch.
Ooh, that sounds like a pirate drink almost.
Yes, it does.
So right after Gasparilla and things going on, we may talk a little bit about pirates and pirate culture and how it's influenced our culture here.
Yeah. Now, 2 weeks from now is February 14th.
14th. So that's a Monday night. February 14th is also Valentine's Day.
So the Baihai Hut has a very special drink for two called the Volcano Bowl. So come on down.
Yep.
Bring your date. Come
your
with
Valentine.
another. Yep. Come with another couple.
Yep.
Then stay for trivia.
Yep.
And just enjoy that huge volcano bowl
for Valentine's Day. So we got our next 2 weeks planned out. Next week we're going to talk about our pirates and the regatta and regatta rum punch, and then the volcano bowl.
Yep.
So sounds great.
All right. So we will see you all next week, and come on down to the Baihai Hut and enjoy a wonderful drink.
A Blue Hawaiian.
Enjoy.